Jimmy, turn around the other way, to the right.
To the back of you.
To the back of you. Wave to your mom. There you go.
A little closer. This is the moment you all been waiting for.
Can you turn it up a little bit?
To embarrass Jim. Now Jim actually is very lucky. Effective, I guess, a day or two before after this. He has known me 50 years. I've known him 50 years. We're 3 months apart in age. We grew up together on the same streets. We have lots of terrible stories that we can tell on each other. But I'm limited to just a few tonight. And we have the gentleman working the pictures. So you can click through a couple. I do want to point out, I think it's the second picture. Okay, we're on pause. This is not working. There we go.
Aww.
There is Jim with his mother, which is still an absolutely unbelievable baby.
Such a little guy. Such a little guy.
Decent looking. Huh?
Oh.
Now here's Jim and Jerry. I do want to point out on the left, he did have the smelliest diaper. People looked at me, but I knew it was him. Yes, just like it was the next. Now somewhere we have. Now this is a family on vacations down in Florida, and Jim's dad, which is coming up, they had a Volkswagen camper. He was the cool family. We didn't have any of the good stuff. They had a Volkswagen camper. They did all these camping trips. We had my mother. That was cool. My mother was unique. There was a Volkswagen camper. The top popped up, which was cool. Jim and I probably every other Saturday night were camping out in there in the summertime. Because in Virginia it's cold, as somebody pointed out. Yes, it snows. Yeah. Okay, I want to point out, I make Glad look sexy here. I'm on the left, Jim, he wasn't doing so. Now I want you to pause for a second. This is right around that age, maybe a few years older. Jim and I, our parents were totally different. We lived down at the end of the street on the water. I had a sailboat, all that good stuff. We went fishing every Sunday. It was a family deal. Jim was inland, quarter of a mile here. He had a moped, which I wasn't allowed to ride, dirt bike, all that cool stuff. Jim could not touch the sailboat, go out on the boat, because he didn't know how to swim, couldn't do anything that long. So I mean, we were quarter mile apart, total opposites. Finally, Jim's parents allowed him to go sailing with me, because I had this little sailboat. I wasn't allowed to sail out of the creek unless somebody was with me, and Jim was with me, so for the first time ever I got to sail out of the creek. Well, of course, you know, when you're 14, you're trying to impress your best friend. You know, I'm going for the America's Cup once we're around the front of the creek. I've got the sail pulled in, we're at a 45-degree lean, we're going. But what I don't know is my mother took his mother down to the end of the creek by land, and they're out on the point, Dr. Campbell's house, watching us. Sailboat was sold 3 months later. Jim was never allowed to go out in the water with me again. So, you know, that was short-lived fun and excitement. Now let's go on a couple more pictures.
Oh, man.
Okay, now this is Jim when he was a little bit older. Now one story I do want to tell, probably between those pictures. Jim and I, he had a tree house, we had a fort, you know, and you always prepare your fort in case you're attacked.
Right.
We were the only 2 kids we knew of within mile limits. But anyway, we were there and we were prepared, and we had to dig this tunnel from the fort so we could get out farther down. And his dad used to get scrap lumber from the junkyard all the time, and we dug this long tunnel, and you know, you dig little notches and you lay 2x4s across, and you put boards on it, put dirt on it. And, well, get it all done, get it looking good, and Jim goes, well, we need to test it.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, and we're walking over, it is working good. So Jim's underneath, going along, looking for little dirt leaks, and he goes, jump.
Oh, no.
I jump. Do you remember those 2 famous words you screamed?
No, I blocked it from my head.
Yeah. Cave-in was the 2 words that he screamed. Evidently you need to dig back a little farther for the 2x4s to have notches. But anyway, we undug Jim, obviously, it worked pretty good. So now this is high school. When Jim and I I started school 1 year before Jim. We're 3 months apart, but the way it worked, I was first. So click on to next picture. What do we have? Now everybody probably remembers when they were young, and even now, the thing called Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Oh, yeah.
Well, in the theater where we grew up, they had the movie playing, and you had characters in front that lip synced, added a few words that really weren't in the movie. And if you see Jim in the upper left, there's a bald man with long hair and a little notch on his back. That was Jim's character, and then he played some other plays in the small theater, and was actually the dance captain for West Side Story 3 times.
Oh my God!
Oh,
Yes.
wow.
So
Whoa,
Jimmy and
hidden secret.
Peter
no
do
more.
get it from Dad.
Uh-huh,
Now, what do we have next that pops up?
Okay.
Life Fundraiser. Those people that may not know, right? Jimmy's got a little scar that kind of goes from one ear over the other ear. And my mother with telephone and communication is a phenomenal woman. That involves sitting in the telephone. She's on it. I get this phone call, and she goes, Jimmy's at the hospital. He's got a concussion. And she's going through all this routine. And there's Avon, if everybody's heard of it. They also had a clothing warehouse and manufacturer where we lived. And Jim worked in the warehouse. Well, he's going across the top, getting stuff, and manages to hit his head on an I-beam.
Oh,
Right. Well, you know, I've known Jim at this point my whole life, and my first thought that's running through my mind is the building structurally sound.
Yeah.
I mean, it was good enough impact, you know, concussion, you know, is everybody else okay? Did they evacuate the building? But anyway, we get on, Jim keeps having headaches, and Jim has, I forget the medical term, but bottom line, he has a bunch of blood vessels in the middle of his brain that's going to explode.
AVN.
Yeah. So this is back before you could like leave one job and carry your health insurance to the next job and COBRA and do all this routine. So Jim fell in that lovely void that I don't have hospital insurance yet from this job, I no longer have it from that job. So, yeah, things aren't looking good. So anyway, the community was going to get together and do a fundraiser, and I end up, my mother convinces me to go up to the church. They're going to have this fundraiser, and all these little old ladies, everybody's gathered around, and they're going to have these bake sales and all this, and I'm thinking, do you know how much money we're going to need and how many cupcakes is there?
Yeah.
You know, I'm thinking, how many commercial ovens do these little old ladies have? So anyway, I left the church like, I ain't gonna make it. So anyway, I told Jim, just bear with me, you're gonna hate me, but it's gonna work. So 3 TV stations later, state delegates, all kinds of good stuff.
Wow, that was you, huh?
Jim's raring to go, everything's good, and he comes to me and goes, I met this girl on the beach.
Oh!
Okay, we got a life-threatening issue here, you're going for surgery, John Hopkins in New York, and you met a girl on the beach.
Oh, he's got his priorities.
Okay, yeah, we'll screw it up. Well, that girl had to be Sheila.
Yay!
And things just went on. Let's see, do another picture. Okay, let's do one more. There we go. Now, this goes down as the most memorable phone call in the history of Miles Berger and Jim's. This is the day after surgery. And I'm at work. I get a phone call. There was no cell phones back then. So you get the collect call, or actually, it wasn't a collect call because you call the dealership. We get the phone call, do all the calling card routine. And then she only goes, Jim wants to tell you something. Okay, now Jim's speech, I knew they took off the front quarter of the skull, went into the brain, all that routine. Put it back together. So speech was really slurred, and kind of his thoughts weren't coming out exactly right. And I'd been warned of that. So Jim gets on the phone, and he goes, it works.
There you go.
Great, okay, surgery worked. You know, I'm going to say, okay, I know his words aren't coming out right. And I'm like, that's great, Jim. I heard the surgery went good. And he goes, no, it works. So I'm pausing, okay, Jim, no problem. So Jim ends up getting a little frustrated trying to communicate with me. So he passes the phone to Sheila. And the bottom line is, Houston, we have wood.
Yes, yes.
So all the organs at work, Jim is now fully functional, doesn't care about anything else. But surgery is done, Jim's going to be okay.
You heard about the picture.
Yes. Yeah. Now I'm gonna turn over to Sheila, because this is where Sheila takes over the next 25 years.
Oh,
I'm done.